Hi YouTube. So I'm back with a new topic. Um my last topic did pretty well on here and it did pretty well on my Instagram account. So I'm pretty excited with this new topic, and I already did the poll on my Instagram because what I've thought to do, which is a good idea, was to do a poll on my IG, get feedback, see what people are saying, and then come on here and give my opinion. But I thought about it and I was thinking like maybe I should come on here. I don't know. We're just gonna play it by ear because sometimes I be feeling like I don't want to make people think that I'm coming on here after I've read everybody's reviews or opinions and adapted someone's opinion that I agree with and come on here afterwards. So we'll see. But I asked a question to my IG account and I'm going to read it. And I said, how long do you give yourself and the other person after you break up before you start dating? And not many people really answered this. A couple people did. And a lot of people were being funny when I was really being serious. So God said 2 shots, meaning shots of liquor later, which we can talk about. And then uh, somebody said, as long as you need, you're not responsible for anyone else's healing. You're only responsible for not further shattering or purposely hurting another individual. So let's talk about that first before I read the rest of those comments. I feel like you are responsible for somebody else's feelings because when you were in that relationship, you were responsible for that person's feelings. So at the end of the day, once you stop dating that person, the day you say it's over, you don't typically cancel out that other person's feelings. That's not healthy. It's not good for either party. And I'm gonna say I lived through this through experience. My last relationship, every relationship I've did this, but the last one was most important to me. And I gave myself about a year before I felt like I wanted to start dating, but I didn't date after that year was up right away because I had to make sure that my ex was in the right mind space because I knew that if he wasn't over me or if he wasn't healed from the breakup, it can possibly hurt what I have next. Like people don't ever take this in consideration, but when you break up with somebody and they're maybe more in love with you or more attached to you or they can't get over the soul tie, they can become a problem. And that's why a lot of men have this issue because men are prideful, so they act out, but they don't act out like in public areas, most like women do when they're in their feelings and stuff. Like women, when you see your ex with a new man, with a new woman, you see a lot of women act out, but it's not because they're really so much immature. It's because they don't have a grip on their emotions and they just react. Men be wanting to do the same, I'm sure, but they suppress a lot of feelings and emotions, and not just in that situation, in life in general. So I gave my ex uh, a nice lengthy amount of time, and I did this because we live in a very, 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 very small city. But if you live somewhere pretty huge like Atlanta or Texas or something, and your ex lives on the other side of the state, then I don't know. It teaches on, but I know that I live in a very small place and we will bump into each other, which I did. I saw a lot of his friends out in public at different settings, at places that I never would have thought they would even be, but they were there. You know what I'm saying? And they could have been childish or immature and called him and told him to just act like he was walking in. Or they could have called him and told him that they saw me. And if he was in his feelings, he could have just wanted to pop up at the spot. And if it was somebody that he didn't approve of, I was dating, or you just have to. I know it sounds crazy, but just consider the other person's feelings because you don't want that problem. You get what I'm saying? And in the meantime, while you're giving that person time to heal, maybe you are healed, but it's other things you can work on. You know what I'm saying? Like you can work on your brand. You can work on your mental, your spirituality. Um, you can spend more time with your children. That was a big thing for me and my kids. Like, I had to make sure that their well being was also taken care of, because when I broke up with him, they broke up with him too. And he had children, and my children and his children are still to this day very close. And that is a whole nother subject we can talk about on another video. I need to write these things down. But it is important of the other person's feelings, because at one point, and probably still, you don't want to admit it, you still care about that person. So you have to consider their feelings. They're human, you know what I'm saying? So just think, like, when you were with that person, every waking day, every waking moment, you wanted to make that person happy by being your best, or giving them your best, or making sure that they're at their best and they're not hurting and stuff. So when you break up, that person does not become a non-human being. They still have feelings and emotions and a thought process, and they probably still care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying keep in contact with that person. That is super unhealthy, but give them that space. And I hate giving out advice, but no, I don't want to say advice. I hate telling people suggestions or whatever, but not having a solution. So I'm gonna tell you some of the things that I did. Uh, One thing I did was started to organize my house. I needed something to do. Then I started like eating healthy, and that took up a lot of time and a lot of my attention. And I focused all of my attention off negative things and started focusing on positive things. I started working on my body, and I started looking at close friendships and relationships with my family members that I needed to focus on, that I was ignoring, that I was pushing to the side. Because when I was in that relationship, sorry about my phone, but when I was in that relationship, they played a huge role in a lot of things I went through with that person. So that helped me to sit back and was like analyze the situation, like, wow, okay, these people were very toxic during that time. And then when I would go through things, because they played a role in the toxicity, they weren't there for me. So I had to go to a place and analyze those thoroughly. And a lot of that took a lot of me spending one on one time with each person and testing them in little ways. You know what I'm saying? Like telling them something that they felt like they were the only one. I mean, they didn't know that they were the only ones who knew, and seeing if they tell everybody else. And going to certain like festivals and parties and stuff, and seeing how they treat me in the atmosphere, because I'm always a giving person. And I know I'm getting a little off track, but your family and your friendships, fixing that also helps when you get into your next relationship. So while you're healing in this time, you're also fixing things along the way. So when you get with the next person, all the toxic things that you had going on with your last relationship, you're not bringing that to the next relationship. Because you know the saying, you can't get a different result by doing the same thing. You can't get different results doing the same thing. So I'm gonna turn my notifications off. I'm sorry, but that's important. And I was so focused that I started actually making more money, and I started to trust myself more, and I was saving more. I was just doing a lot of positive things. I was changing up the music I was listening to. I didn't watch TV for two years. I still don't watch television unless I'm watching like a movie with my children or something like that, or somebody tells me like it's a Netflix series I really, really, really need to watch. Sometimes if I feel like it, I'll check it out. But I just started detoxing things in my life that were like negative and replacing them with things that are positive. So I watch myself grow tremendously, and I look back and I just like when you grow and you look back on where you were 6 months ago or a year ago, it is truly amazing if you're really trying to grow. The way I was with my last relationship, I was toxic too, but asked me then, and I wouldn't have told you that. I would have been thinking it was all him. But in the journey of gaining knowledge, oh yeah, another thing is too, I started watching podcasts. I started watching podcasts because I asked God to make me a wife, and I was like, maybe it's some things about me I need to change too, because I used to think that I was well equipped, and I really wasn't. And God showed it to me. Like I asked, He gave, and He started revealing things to me through the podcast. Like they were talking about healing and relationships and all that stuff, and I'm like, dang, I used to do that. Dang, I used to do that. And these are men giving advice to women. And I'm like, I never knew men even thought that way. You know what I'm saying? I just thought that men were slow. I used to think that, but it's not that they're, a little delayed. It's the fact that men and women don't think the same. So, any situation that presents itself, it's always good to have the different ideas and different balance. Maybe you won't always agree, but maybe both of you guys can come together and give each other a different view of something, and then it makes the situation better how you go about it. So I learned that. And let's read another comment off of my poll. Somebody said immediately, if we're done, we're done. No. Because, like I said, it could be very toxic. It can be very toxic for yourself because you're dating from a hurt place, and hurt people hurt people. So you're meeting people and you're going out and you're finding every little thing about this person and compared to your ex, number one, or two, you're hurting and you can sleep with someone too soon because you're trying to wash or cleanse away your ex off of you, and you thinking that being with this person and forcing something with this person is going to heal that, and it's not. You just have to do the work. Another thing is, another person said 15 minutes. This is the problem, you guys. Like y'all move on pretty fast. That is the problem. But I know a lot of people were joking. She said YOLO. You only live once, right? You do only live once, but you don't want to live this life with constant toxicity. Like you want to purge all of that stuff out of your life. But another person got deep and she said it depends on the connection of the relationship. I've waited 3 years and I've waited 2 weeks. 3 years after my child's father because I was focused on myself and my daughter. See? 2 years thinking we were going to get back together because we broke up and got back together so often. 2 weeks after a 3-month relationship when dude put my financial life at stake. Wow. Girl, I ran so fast and I got some of my money back in. Wow. Okay, so that's another thing too. When you're hurting from your past relationship, you're kind of blind. So you don't pay attention to all the red flags because you're constantly paying attention too much to the fact that you're trying to move on. And you're bamboozled by a lot of things. Maybe the guy's looks, maybe the way he dressed, the way he smelled. And you're like, oh, but no. You want to go in like the way I date today versus how I dated years ago is totally different. Like, I'm so quiet on a date now. I'm just like, oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting. Nice. Because I always used to be the talker. And then he learned everything about me. Then you telling him everything, and he's like, oh, I can play her like that. Oh, I know she'll go for that. Oh, she's going to be okay with this and that and third. And you're thinking like he's not doing that, but he is. My mom told me when I was very, very young that you don't tell nobody what you've been through in your past because they would do the same thing to you. And people work a lot off their subconscious mind. You have to look that up. That gets very deep, but you work a lot off your subconscious mind. And what happens with the subconscious mind, it doesn't really store a memory of like, it stores everything, but it's like storing stuff without your permission. So when your mind, a part of your brain is working and it's storing things say for instance you're listening to bad music, it's storing that. And then when you get in a situation, you're acting out what you stored into that memory box. And a lot of people don't know about that. But, and then like with your subconscious mind, also like you're programmed from your ex. So you're going to constantly keep comparing this new person because you didn't give time for them to get out your system. You're constantly going to keep comparing that guy from 2 weeks ago to the new guy. And you're a human. You don't want to live up to somebody else's standards. Imagine, and this, oh my God, I'm so glad. Thank you, God, for bringing this to my memory. But I do not like to be compared to other women. I don't even care if you say, I don't want to say, I'm not petty. I don't care if you say we look alike. I don't care about that. But sometimes I do because I am my own person. And I feel like if you're comparing me to think that I look like somebody else, and it might be somebody I don't like, you know what I'm saying? Like I told you I live in a small city. I pretty much know a lot of people here, and I've been compared to people I didn't care for that I had issues with since high school, and I'm like, I don't look like her. Oh my God. But I probably do, but I don't want to hear that, you know? So by you dating so soon, you're doing something to the other person that you wouldn't want done to you. That's what I was trying to say. So I don't like when guys compare. Like they're all like guys talk about their exes a lot too when they move on too soon. You will be on a date and they be like, and another thing, my baby mother did this, and another thing, my ex girlfriend did this, and you're like, okay, but you're here with me, and I'm nothing like that. But then he's not taking the time to get to know how you are because in his mind he's constantly comparing the two things. You know what I'm saying? Like the two people. I'm sorry, me and her, and he's not even noticing that I'm not like that, or he's noticing in it, but he's not taking it into consideration and admiring that thing about me because he's too busy focused on the negative. But if I would have met him down the line years later, then I think that that would have been out his system and he probably wouldn't talk about her as much. He's probably healed and ready to move on and find something new. But sometimes when you move on too soon, you're constantly, even if you don't speak it, you're constantly in your mind thinking like if a guy gets in a car and he smells like motor oil and he worked all day but he didn't shower good enough, but your ex showers for 6 hours and smells like um he smells like Gucci or something, and you like, oh my God, this guy is nothing like my ex. He smells like motor oil, and he, even though he's a mechanic, that's good and all, but he doesn't smell like him. Like when he walks by, I'm like, oh my God. So we do that, ladies, and you can't say we don't. And fellas, you guys do that too, and it's not good. It's really not good that because this guy who works as a mechanic, you're not even giving him a chance. He probably is God fearing, you know what I'm saying? But you didn't get to that conversation because you cut him off after that day, and he never got to tell you that he loves God and he only works at this as a mechanic part time, and maybe he owns 15 real estate properties, and you know what I'm saying? Like you just don't know. You just do not know. And you're prejudging. And none of us like to be prejudged. Like that's what's going on and that's what's wrong with the world today. People saying the word racist, but it's not racist. It's the study of. So being racist is the study of a race. Prejudice is when you prejudge someone. So you're prejudging this person before you really get to deep down inside know this person. And me and my mom and a friend of mine had a conversation about this just yesterday. She's very young, and she always asks me for advice or what do I think about situations. And she was saying she went on a date with this guy, and he she didn't want him. She didn't feel it in the air like the sparks. But I know what that is. When you're really young, you're kind of shallow. And I told her that, like, when I was young, I was super shallow. Like, I wanted a particular type of guy. He had to look like this. He had to smell like this. He had to be this tall and all of this stuff. So I'm blocking out my blessings because I'm looking for what I want, my preferences, but God had something else for me. And he probably sent them to me 3 times, and I'm looking for this tall, dark, handsome guy with these thick waves. And my husband is probably nothing like that. So I told her, and she was like, he talked about God and all of this stuff on the first date, but I was mad because he wasn't dressed, and I did all this to do my makeup and hair and dress a certain way, and I'm like, well, where did you guys go? And she mentioned like this chill spot, like a chill little bar in our city. And I thought that was funny. I was like, I wouldn't have got dressed up for that. But then she was like, no, it's a date. And then I'm like, well, maybe I probably would have, but I wouldn't be mad if he didn't. So that was funny. You can't judge a book by its cover. I learned that watching people in my family date. You do that, you could really miss your blessings. So I had another comment about the post that I put up, and I don't. I don't know. I'm kind of getting distracted because my mom is walking around upstairs. But I don't know. If you got anything that you want to add to this video, or you want to ask me about the topic that I posted, I gave you guys a few tips of what you should do when you break up with somebody in a time frame before you meet someone else or before you start dating. I feel like you guys should work on yourself and worry about yourself and give that other person time to heal as well. Do not just be a complete, I don't care what happened in that relationship, that person still needs time to heal. And the worst, the relationship, the way it ended, if it was really, really, really bad, really, really, really take a lot of time to heal, because the more damage it was, the more time you need. That's what I was trying to say. Um, so I hope you liked this video. I hope it was very helpful for you. Like, share, and subscribe. Send this to somebody who needs to hear this. Thanks.